Have you ever looked at a stranger and just decided who they are? Maybe you saw someone in old clothes and thought they were lazy, or saw someone shouting and thought they were just angry, without knowing they were actually scared. Our brains are designed to protect us, so they make really fast judgments. We see a surface-level action and create a whole story about that person in our minds. But often, that story is a lie. The brain lies to us because it doesn't have all the information. It fills in the gaps with our own biases and past experiences. Today, we're going to hear a heart-touching story that happens on a train. It's a story that will shake the very foundation of how we look at other people. It will teach us that what we see with our eyes isn't always the full truth. So let's settle in, clear our minds, and listen carefully, because this story might just change the way you see the world tomorrow. The story begins on a bright, sunny afternoon at a busy railway station. People were rushing everywhere, checking their watches and carrying heavy bags. Among the crowd was a young couple, David and Sarah. They were dressed in sharp professional clothes. They were smart, successful, and maybe a little proud of their orderly lives. They found their seats on the train and settled in, hoping for a quiet, peaceful journey. They opened their books and prepared to relax. But just a few moments before the train departed, an old father and his adult son entered the carriage. The son was about 24 years old, but as soon as he sat down, he began to act in a way that seemed very strange for his age. He clapped his hands excitedly and pressed his face against the glass, looking at the platform with wide, surprised eyes, bouncing in his seat like a toddler. David and Sarah exchanged a confused look. Their brains immediately started whispering judgments. Is he drunk? David thought. Is he mentally unstable? Sarah wondered. They didn't know the truth yet, so they decided that what they were seeing was a problem. As the train blew its whistle and started to move, the situation became even more awkward. As the train picked up speed, the 24-year-old son let out a loud shout of pure joy. He pointed a finger out the window and yelled, "Dad, look, the trees are going behind us. They're moving so fast." He was shouting so loudly that other passengers turned their heads to stare. The father, sitting next to him, didn't look embarrassed at all. He just smiled a warm, loving smile and patted his son's hand. He replied softly, "Yes, my son, they are moving fast." David and Sarah felt a wave of second-hand embarrassment. They looked at the boy with pity, but also with growing annoyance. To them, a grown man screaming about moving trees was a disturbance. A few minutes later, the train passed a field of cows. Again, the young man screamed with delight, "Dad, look, animals, they're running with us." The other passengers started whispering to each other, judging the father for not teaching his son how to behave in public. David leaned over to Sarah and whispered, "Look at that poor father. But really, he should teach him to be quiet. It's rude to shout like that." Sarah nodded. "Yes," she said, "it's sad, but it's also annoying. Why is the father encouraging him?" Their brains were telling them a story of a disorderly family, and they felt superior because they knew how to behave properly. The journey continued, and soon rain started to fall. For the young man by the window, it was magic. He opened the window slightly and stuck his hand out, laughing as the water splashed onto his palm. "Dad, it's raining. I can feel the water. Look, Dad." By this point, David had lost his patience. He felt it was his duty to say something. He stood up, walked over to the old man and his son, and cleared his throat. "Excuse me, sir," David said, his tone polite but clearly annoyed. "Your son is disturbing the other passengers. Why don't you take him to a good doctor? Surely there is some treatment that can help him." The old father listened without anger. Instead, a slow, tearful smile spread across his face. He looked at his son, then back at David. "We are actually coming from the hospital right now," the father said softly. David was confused. "You are?" he asked. The father took a deep breath and explained, "My son was blind from birth for 24 years. He has lived in total darkness. A few days ago, he had surgery. He received donated eyes. Today, just a few hours ago, the doctors removed the bandages." The father's voice trembled with emotion. Today is the first time in his entire life that he can see the world. He isn't crazy, young man. He is seeing God's creation for the very first time. David felt the ground disappear from under his feet. The annoyance he felt vanished, replaced by a heavy wave of shame. The crazy behavior was a miracle. The bad parenting was a father witnessing the happiest moment of his son's life. David sat back down, and tears welled up in his eyes. He whispered the truth to Sarah, and she too covered her mouth in shock. The couple who thought they knew everything realized they knew nothing. My friends, this story teaches us a vital lesson. Our minds are quick to label people, but every person is fighting a battle you know nothing about. The person acting strangely on the train might have just seen the world for the first time. When we judge, we stop understanding. We build walls instead of bridges. So, the next time your brain tries to tell you a negative story about a stranger, pause. Remind yourself that you only see one page of their life, not the whole book. Replace judgment with curiosity. Replace annoyance with compassion, because the truth is almost always kinder than what our brains invent. If this story touched your heart, please share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the message of patience and understanding. Don't forget to like and leave a comment below about a time you judged someone wrongly. Your stories help us all grow. Thank you for listening, and until next time, remember to look with your heart, not just your eyes.